Hello there everyone, it's Carol from the Crafty Emporium. I often get asked how you use the hitch posts, of which I sell these in my pop-up shop, which is held once a month, and it comes in two parts. So you've got the little metallic head and you've got a screw, so those two join together to make the hitch post, which stands proud from your front cover. And I've got one here to show you that I've used on this mini album, and so I've hooked over my ribbons over the top of this, my seam binding, and that's the hitch post there. So I'll try and show you in profile. You can see how proud it stands from the front cover. Now there are a couple of things to consider when it comes to decorating your front cover and adding the hitch post in the correct part of decorating the cover. You need to consider about where it's going to sit on the front cover, and it's normally around about halfway or just slightly higher than halfway. And it also sits in about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch away from the edge of the cover itself. So it never sits right on the very edge, but it sits in a little way so that it has that little bit of extra support. Now, the other thing that you need to consider is the decoration of it. So here, if I just attached it to the green part of the front cover and then I wanted to mat it with this decorative paper on top, I would then actually, my hitch post would not be working right because it would be underneath the paper and forming a large bulge. So you need to think of the order in which you're going to decorate. So I knew with this one that I was going to put this mat on top, and that would be the top layer that the hitch post would have to sit on. Sometimes you might have things, say like a decorative piece like this, which might actually get in the way, and you might have to forego that and actually sit it on top of the decorative piece to be able to use it if it extends into that area where you're going to sit your hitch post, or have a complete rethink about how you're going to make a closure in the first instance. The next part to consider is then the inside part of the cover. Now you can't see the screw on the back of here, and that's because I decorated the front with the mat and then attached my hitch post and then put the mat on the inside so that it covers over the screw area. Now you might not be able to do it in that order, and if you can't and you have the mat on in position already, then the top part of the screw would actually show. So if you want to cover that over, then you would need to do it in the correct order so that it doesn't show, by attaching it before you attach the mat that sits on the inside. So as you can see, you can't see that screw for the back of the hitch post. I'm going to demonstrate on this cover that I've been working on. Now I've decorated the outside of the cover already, but I haven't done anything to the inside. So it means that I'm going to put the screw in position and then I'll cover it over afterwards so that you can't actually see the back of the screw at all. Now I want to make sure that it's far enough in, so I'm going to do it at approximately an inch in and at about the halfway point, which works out fine because that's a flat part of the pattern, because this is a dimensional sort of paper. So if I tried to sit it here where this dimensional paper is, it wouldn't sit very flat and in contact with the cover. So I'm actually going to do it in this area here where the paper itself is flat. So that means that it's going to be just slightly higher than halfway. Now I'm just using my pokey tool. You could mark it with a pencil to start with, and I'm just going to poke a hole right the way through and lay it down flat. I'm going to keep lifting it up the length of the pokey tool spike because it gets fatter, and then I'm going to wiggle it about. I could burst into song now with wiggle it just a little bit, but I won't. I'll be good. So I've now got a big enough hole. Now if you have a, oh heck, what's it called? Let's get mine out. My big bite crocodile. It does actually poke a 1/8 of an inch and a 3/16 of an inch hole. So I could use one of those. So I would use the 1/8 of an inch, which only produces such a tiny hole. And if I, so that's it with the pokey tool anyway, and it's gone right the way through. But I could use the crocodile, but if you haven't got one, just get it lined up, then you can use your pokey tool. And so I'm going to make the camera wobble. There we go. So I've now got a little hole there. Because not everyone's got a crocodile. And so what I'm going to do is the screw part of it, I'm going to place on the back and push it through to the front. And then I'm going to put the little knob on top and just wrap it around with my fingers a little bit to just tighten it up a little bit around the screw. And then I'm going to use a posi drive or a star-shaped screwdriver, so not a flathead one like this, but the star-shaped one, to just tighten up that screw as far as it'll go. And that is now securely in place. The other thing that you would need to do with using this as your closure is you need to be able to poke a hole on the back to feed your seam binding or ribbons through. So as you can see, I've used an eyelet to just anchor my ribbons, and so I've just folded them in half, popped the loop part through the eyelet, and then put the loose ends through the loop, and that is now anchored on the back of the album. So if I can show you close up. Okay, now I'm just going to undo these, because this is the part that always baffles folks. So once I've attached my seam binding, I'm then left with these loose ends. Well, how do I know how to attach it around that hitch post? So basically, I'm just going to form a loop and tie it, just a simple knot, and then I'm going to pull it in so that it sits over the top of the hitch post. Okay, so now I know roughly where it needs to be. Now at the moment I haven't used this mini album, so it means that this should get fatter the more I use it. So that knot might not be in the right place. So I would actually leave it as a single knot. But if you've already filled this out and it's as fat as it's going to get, then I would actually do a second knot, just a simple knot, and pull it in really tight so that you've got a double knot then to secure the loop in place. But because I haven't used it, I might want to adjust it, so I've just left it as the single knot. And I like a double bow, that's why I've got 2 lengths of seam binding here. So then I would form a bow, and then what I do is I pull the one that's sat inside through a little bit further, and on that side, so that you end up with a little bit of a fluffy bow. Trim off the ends as I need to, and there, that's where my hitch closure is, my hitch post, and it's now acting as a closure for my mini album. And that's as simple as it gets for using the hitch post. The most difficult part is working out when you need to attach it due to the decoration of the front cover and the inside. But I hope that that helps you a little bit with the thought process of attaching a hitch post. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.